Hey, good morning. The Loopcast is getting with the times. We have our very own live stream countdown now. Come on now.
We're pretty fancy.
We're getting kind of hip with it.
Yeah.
Welcome
pro.
to everyone joining here on Friday. Shout out Dom Higgy, first one in the chat. Thanks for joining. We appreciate you guys. We have a live show here today. We actually had, somewhat of a hit piece come out on CatholicVote that Erika, you wanted to talk about this a few shows ago, and I got pushed out.
I've been waiting.
Wasn't a president almost assassinated or something like that?
Yeah, a couple things happened on the world stage, and so we were distracted from my Vanity Fair piece. And no, I don't read Vanity Fair regularly, guys.
Yeah.
But this one popped up.
Before we get into that, I have a few housekeeping notes and actually a question for you. So it is FAQ Friday. It's a special day. We have a couple questions already preloaded from people over email. We actually had one come in over Spotify. So first, I'd say if you have those questions, you can throw them in the live chat and check out this. I'm just, tickled by this feature. Look at this.
Whoa.
Hey.
We could show the live chat now. The technology going on here.
Once again, Bonnie from North Dakota. I love that.
On another level. So thank you guys joining live. If you guys
because a part of my heart is still in North Dakota. I dropped my daughter off there at UMary. So
very true. Shout out UMary. So if you have those questions, drop them in the chat. We're gonna have Rosie collecting some of those for us to answer later in the episode. But we actually had one come in from Spotify, and I didn't even know you can ask questions on Spotify or interact, but I just found out, which is kind of cool. And someone asked, Erika, what is your favorite bourbon?
Oh, I got a question about bourbon. This is so exciting. Well, I don't want to deceive anyone into thinking that I'm really a bourbon aficionado. I just like bourbon. But I will say my favorite that I've had thus far in my lifetime is Knob Creek. I love Knob Creek.
Oh, it's good.
Yep. Number 12. I love that one.
You know
really
what?
Good.
I really appreciate your natural aversion to, you almost have to qualify anytime you talk about something like bourbon, because there's real bourbon heads out there that love to gatekeep and judge.
Yes.
And
what do you mean gatekeep? What are you saying? What do you mean?
Like, it's one of those kind of niches that if you come in, you're like, oh, I really like bourbon. Then people are like, oh, so you're an expert. And then if you say something, you get jumped on if you don't say the right answer. And like, for example, I live in the great state of Indiana. Right below us is Kentucky, bourbon capital of the world. And I think that this is almost like saying Jaws is your favorite movie. It's a little, but Woodford Reserve.
That's good.
Woo.
I like it.
Reserve, the double oak specifically. And part of why I like it is because I learned that I was having my first son there. And then also they did a whole tasting. They showed you everything. And here's a pro tip. If you guys want a nice little treat on the weekend, take a bite of chocolate, then keep it in your mouth and sip the bourbon while it's in your mouth. It tastes like Snickers.
Whoa, I love Snickers. That's my favorite candy bar.
It was kind of cool.
I know something about bourbon.
What's up?
Hey, we brought bourbon
right here.
It must be FAQ Friday.
Friday, we're feeling loose. You might need a few more sips before we get into this hit piece. So, if I could,
of course, I'm more German though, so I usually go beer. But anyway,
well, we knew that. Yeah, you scream beer guy, which all respect. I remember we got in trouble, like real trouble, one time because Erika, you denigrated Bud Light.
I did,
and the real light beer drinkers of the country were pitchforks on you for that.
I'll take the pitchforks because I believe historical events with Bud Light later bore out my animus.
Nice.
Come on, guys.
Appreciate it. Well,
Loopcast is ahead of its time. I love it.
Someone's asking about my mug. Check it out. We got the Loop mug.
Yay, the Loop mug.
You
got another one?
YouTube can get the Loop mug if you
guys,
10 people to subscribe to Loop.
I broke it. I got the Knights of Columbus mug.
Yeah,
sorry, guys. Ooh,
that's okay.
They're pretty awesome too.
I love the Knights. I'm a member.
Totally fair. Oh yeah, someone didn't know you were a knight, Josh, and I told him over email. I was like, yeah, he's a knight, but you don't have the feather hat, so I can see why it's confusing.
Nobody has that anymore, bud.
Or the sword.
Nothing against the Knights.
No, the swords are
I literally make it to meetings very, very, very infrequently, but I support their mission and I donate to their causes. I'm very happy by the way, what they did when my late friend Andrew Walther was instrumental in getting them active in helping the Christians in the Middle East. And so that's something I continue to do and support in Andrew's memory. But yeah, the Knights are awesome. I like the Knights.
Awesome. So I would like to show the picture before Erika. I'm giving you the honor of talking about this because this was first on your radar, I believe. So I'm going to new system. Give me some grace, but Let's see. How do I get back to Grace?
Yeah, we're good. Everyone's feeling loose. Chat's warming up
Oh, here
here.
we go. Bang, look at us all in that little corner.
Oh, well, look at that.
Okay,
It's beautiful.
So title of the piece, Behind the Catholic Rites, Celebrity Conversion Industrial Complex. From
Oh, yeah.
To J.D. Vance to Candace Owens, what happens when the Catholic Church chases influencers and their legions of followers down the rabbit hole of the right? And for the audio listeners, we have, would I say borderline blasphemous?
It's just
kitschy, kind of weird. And basically it's taking 5 celebrities who have either entered the church or are considering entering the church, and they're drawing them up as if they're saints. So it's iconic.
Which
I mean, it's
again kind of.
I mean, it's not. It's intended to be a little tongue in cheek. I don't think they're really. I mean, because none of these are actual saints that they're making fun of. They're just like saying,
"Oh, sacred art with J.D. Vance's face on it."
Yeah.
Haha. LOL.
It's like they're kind of poking fun at Catholic conservatives. Like, are you guys already treating these 5 people as if they're saints? I think that's a fair critique. So I'm going to let them get away with it.
All right, Josh loves it. But so Erika, we were actually mentioned. Catholic Vote was mentioned a few times in this piece. Could you give a gist on what they were going for here?
Yeah, this is another interesting case. You might remember we covered the AP's article last May, where they talked about how the churches, the right wingers of the church, like traditional practices are coming back, like going to Latin Mass and wearing veils and head coverings. So, and that was kind of like being in a fishbowl, because you kind of get this view into people who are outside the church looking in and trying to understand what's going on. This was more of that, but less friendly, I would say, like a little.
Again, we have to diagnose it. It's like, reporters go to the safari to find out what's going on with these Catholics.
Catholics in their native habitat. What do they do? Well, and the gist of the piece, of course, is that the Catholic right, they have this hope that these massive influencers, they're gonna go after these influencers, get them to be trad Catholics, and then somehow they will help change the church into what the right wingers really want it to be, and that's like Latin speaking, ballerina farm, like sourdough and all that. So they examine the case of Candace Owens, who we spoke about when she converted last spring. They talk about, J.D. Vance, of course, comes up as, now he's this crazy right-wing populist, and he's Catholic, and who knows if he was really sincere. The thing that got me on this one, really, other than the fact that they're the only way they can understand evangelization and conversion is through the lens of political power struggles, right? That the only reason right-wing Catholics would want these people to be baptized and confirmed into the church, the only reason is that they want more political power and influence in their church. Whereas, like, maybe we just want people's souls to be saved. Like, I'll take an influencer, I'll take Joe down at the barber shop, I'll take everyone, like, we just want them to know Jesus. Maybe we think what we believe is true.
You're saying that in jest, obviously, but I think an important part to understanding this hit piece is never once in the article was it suggested that maybe any of these people had a personal encounter with Jesus Christ.
No.
And found the Catholic Church to be holding the truth.
Well, and not only that, Tom, but none of the Catholics they interviewed for the piece even thought for a moment maybe these people actually met Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, or maybe they had a conversion experience through the Rosary. So this is the usual cast of characters, right? I think you wrote them down here. We have Massimo Fagioli. We have Steve Millies. What's his name? Lafferty, Mike Lewis. Like, these were the people they interviewed to try and understand inside the church what's really going on.
Explanation for who these people are, because maybe general knowledge. And honestly, I would be happy if they didn't know who they are, but it's important.
Yeah. So, I mean, Massimo Fagioli, he was one of the Fagioli, but I want to say Fagioli. I did, and because Josh wanted to too, but I said it for him. So we have Mike Lewis. So he writes for, what is it, Crooks Now or something, and just leftist Catholic. Where Peter Is. Mike Lewis is the founder of Where Peter Is, which is a apologist page for anything crazy Pope Francis.
These are all left-wing Catholic writers who are trying to agitate the church to embrace the sexual revolution in all of its deviant forms.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Steve
And so
is quite literally unfollowable on Twitter. I think I had to mute him because
I thought you were blocked by some of these guys,
I'm
Pogo.
blocked by a few of them, yeah, but it's as if they're Catholic in an effort to hate everything the Catholic Church stands for and change it into what they wish it was. It's like liberal ideology, basically.
The projection that they project. They always accuse Catholic conservatives. Oh, you're just Republicans in name only, or only using the Catholic faith to try to win over Republicans, Catholics to vote Republican. It's like, look, I've called out the Republican Party probably 1,000 times, in my life. I've been more than willing to critique them, but these guys, it's total projection. They'll absolutely defend everything that Kamala Harris would do till their death. And they don't, it's like they don't even care about their faith. Mike Lewis would be the possible exception, even though I was surprised by that because he's actually the most annoyingly lefty of them all. And he seems like he's the guy who argues like at 10th grade high school level. But he actually called out Democrats on abortion recently. And I was like, well, it's actually kind of surprising. But anyway, this is the usual cast of characters, absolute dissidents.
So can I bring up the part I actually agreed with in this article?
Yeah, go for it.
Completely wholesale throw it out and then I looked into the author herself. I don't believe she's Catholic, and a lot of her endorsements came from like the LGBTQ association, whatever. So I figured it wasn't someone super familiar. It was a well-written piece. I have to give it to her. Well-written piece. They did a great job of painting who they wanted to paint in the light that they wanted to do it.
Very effective.
One part that I actually thought there's some interesting thoughts on. Here's a quote. To many on the Catholic right, that's just prophecy fulfilled. For decades, conservative Catholics have predicted a winnowing of the church down to a, quote, smaller, purer core, which is actually kind of a bad citation of Pope Benedict, a smaller, more fervent church, as a reference to that, as liberal clergy and laity die off or drop out. The corollary to that vision, the reason the Catholic right groups are talking about energy shifting is the promise that church won't remain small, but once purged of internal conflict, it will spark a virtuous revolution and exponential growth. But it wouldn't be the bishops leading that revolution, since, as Millies argues, they're no longer the ones determining the narrative of the church in the United States. Instead, it's increasingly a mix of lay movements, lay money, and lay leaders. Those powers choose. When Bucker's commencement speech went viral, for example, conservative Catholic media heralded him as embodying a DIY traditionalism with little direct connection to church authorities. To the extent bishops still mattered at all, agreed Fagoli, it wasn't because Catholics obey them, but because they become a sort of a weather vane, reflecting changes in the culture or influence of, quote, big Catholic laymen. Now, when church authorities weigh in on public debates, as many did to defend Bucker's speech, it is they who are playing catch up.
Yeah, actually, I think that's an observation that's actually largely correct. I mean, without attacking or criticizing, I have to say you have not seen that much vocal leadership from bishops over the last 15, 20 years in any reasonable way. I mean, honestly, you have a man in the White House who's, well, actually, maybe he's on Rehoboth Beach in Delaware, who professes a Catholic faith and has been a strident defender of abortion. And as we detailed in our latest ad, he and Kamala support taxpayer money being used on life-altering transgender surgeries for minors under the age of 18. And you just think to yourself, this guy is able to do all of that and have basically no rebuke from bishops. He's still able to go to Mass on Sunday and receive the Eucharist. He's in communion with the Catholic Church. And Catholics are like, what the heck? And bishops have just decided, like, we're just going to duck our heads. There's the fear of if they attack him, quote unquote, or call him out or correct him, that it's political. But it's like, it's political if you do nothing too.
Well, and I think not just political in terms of like American politics and parties and Democrats, Republicans, but political within the church itself, which the article does point out. I think they get it wrong, but they do point out that when bishops have spoken out against Joe Biden. So like when Joe Biden on his inauguration day, we also got this statement from the bishops explaining where they saw there would be conflict between the teachings of the church and Joe Biden's presidency. And the Vatican, according to the article, the Vatican kind of smacked them down on that. And so, I think the politics within the church as well.
Obviously you have Pope Francis who likes to think that returning migrants home to their home country is the same as morally equivalent to killing babies in the womb. I mean, so obviously,
well, according to him on that day, right? Give him 2 weeks and he'll come out saying that abortion is like hiring a hitman again. So who knows what's in the mind of the man. I think so. I get it. Like, I think in terms of life online, in terms of social media, and probably even just any media that the lay Catholics consume, like they talk about Word on Fire, which I think Mike Lewis or Lafferty, they love to complain about Word on Fire being so influential, or like Augustine Institute or something like that. Yeah, these are massively led lay movements that are largely outside the purview. They are outside the purview of the USCCB. Word on Fire obviously has Bishop Barron, but
and it's a good
kind
thing
of on his own. It's a good thing, right? And they're very successful. But I think that for people who are not in that world, not in that online world, for the average Catholic in the pews, they're still more influenced by decisions bishops make than I think the bishops are given credit for here. So, for example, right, like if you're an average Catholic in the pew and all you see is your church bulletin, right? And there are people still out there who that's all they really communicate with in terms of their faith is their bulletin that they read during the homily or something on Sunday. And there's like a letter from the bishop in there, maybe they read half of it. So I think and the decisions that bishops make in their individual dioceses about the liturgy, for example, I think that has a massive impact on how people are worshiping and what they're accepting about their faith or rejecting about their faith. So I do think that in terms of the spiritual realm, in terms of liturgy, in terms of the quality of formation of priests, bishops, which is very central to the health of the church, bishops still have a lot of influence. However, I agree with in the online world, if people are looking for formation in the faith, they're probably not going to go to USCCB sources anymore.
Well, it's interesting to think, though. You mentioned the Augustine Institute and Word on Fire. Obviously, I think CatholicVote and our apostolate is another great contribution to the faith. I mean, 600,000 people getting the loop every day.
It's not bad.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All of those initiatives, by the way, and also like EWTN, they were all lay movements. And what happened when the Catholic Church was encountered with several of these? Well, I'll take EWTN to start with because it was the first of those four I mentioned.
It's a good story.
Cardinal Mahoney did not like it at all. He was the bishop of Los Angeles. He deserves orange vestments for everything he did. And he was calling out Mother Angelica, was trying to shut her down. And his idea was like, wait, how is this independent or Catholic organization doing this? It should be under the auspices of the bishops. It should be part of their communications department. And he worked overtime to try to do it. Mother Angelica fought him back. Praise the Lord. And the bishops were like, well, we'll try to do our own like television station or whatever. And that, I think, lasted 4 seconds. And they eventually gave that fight up. And, there was a sort of an understanding and a peace there or whatever. But the bishops still went forward with their Catholic news service. And they, because, someone's got to get out there and tell Catholics that, I'm biting my tongue, but Catholic news service was just 40 years of mediocrity and undermining the faith. And so thankfully, the U.S. bishops decided 2 years ago, like, why are we doing this? This is stupid. Like, there's tons of Catholic media content. Why are we subsidizing this for hundreds of thousands of dollars? And they got rid of it. And our Sunday Visitor bought it because I guess they decided they had money to do so. But again, you look at all these other entities, Catholic News Agency, CatholicVote, Word on Fire. It's actually the laity doing what the church fathers suggested at Vatican II. Like, we need the laity to be more involved. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Mother Angelica and all these lay movements like Augustine Institute are like, sure, we're none of us bishops, we'll get involved. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, not like
that. Exactly.
I'm glad
not like that.
The exact takeaway from this article, it felt like, okay, Catholics answering the call of Vatican II for the laity to become more involved in the salvation of souls and active in the life of the church. And then, they go to the Mike Lewises, they go to the other people who it just kind of seemed like were kind of jealous almost of the influence of these other initiatives, because you saw who they talked to. They only talked to a very specific group of people. When they were talking about people like CatholicVote, like Bishop Barron, like these other groups, they didn't ask any of them for comment, or they didn't interview any of them. They interviewed 4 people in a small camp, and they were mad that the liberal Catholic influence is dying. And so,
yeah, I mean, they didn't even send it.
We don't, no, not like that. And it's like, well, that is the reality. So I guess the real question of the article is, what is so compelling about, and this article is painting it out to be conservative Catholicism. I would argue it's Orthodox Catholicism, actually living out the tenets of the faith. And there's this, Matt Walsh brought this up too, and I respect it a lot. It seems like anytime anyone does anything, there's a group of people that are going to try to tear it down. Like in the same sense that almost don't, they don't like, I don't know if it's jealousy or whatever, they just don't like seeing people be effective. And so when places like CatholicVote, they go out and they believe that the teachings of the Catholic Church shouldn't just stay in your head and that you should stay private about your beliefs, that it actually has impacts to help society change your life and improve our country, then that's a step too far for Catholics, at least.
Yes,
And
I want to echo you 100 times, Tom. Thank you. Because if abortion is bad, if murdering little babies is bad, maybe we should do more than just a bulletin announcement about it.
Right.
I'm with you.
So,
that's why I'm
so
here.
There's this debate now going on in the evangelical circles that we had about 13 years ago with Live Action, because Live Action did the undercover work to discover that all the deception that Planned Parenthood was doing, and then David Daleiden as well a few years later. And you had the Catholic left who are like, wait a minute, this is effective, and this is getting more people interested in the pro-life cause, and that hurts our ability for Democrats to win office. So So in the evangelical world right now, there's this article, How Far is Too Far? Honoring the truth while fighting the good fight. And it's by this guy who wrote a book on homosexuality in the church. He's an evangelical, and Danny Burke. And he's just talking about this again. It's like the use of deception and lying. And
talking about undercover work,
yes,
like Matt Walsh's work, right?
Well, he's explicitly talking about the movie that he just
Am I
did.
Racist? Yep.
Right. And again, it just gets to this point where it's like, we don't even have this. I think there's a problem in the English language because we don't have this debate when it comes to killing. If some criminal breaks into someone's house and the guy, defends his life and kills him in self-defense, there's no qualms here. There's no hand wringing like, well, he just killed that person and that, isn't that a sin? It's like, because
Kamala just said she would shoot someone who came into her house. So
most relatable she's ever been so far.
I
know. But we make a clear distinction between murder, which would be the unlawful killing of somebody, and just plain killing somebody. Killing encapsulates many different types of ways that a person's life might expire, right? And so we immediately do it that way. Whereas when it comes to lying, we just use the same word, and it's not really that helpful, actually, because if you're doing undercover work, if you're, being clever, you're doing some sort of a ruse like Matt Walsh is doing, is it lying, or is it just, you're just trying to uncover the truth? Because people in our today's society lie all the time. In politics, there's so much lying going on. I mean, it drives me crazy. You watch these, and it's not just one side that does it, of course. But I would say when Republicans lie, the media shouts for the rooftops, that guy's lying, that guy's lying. When the Democrats lie, the Democrats are like, the Republican is lying, the Republican is lying.
Or how dare you notice that they lied?
Right, exactly.
Republicans pounce.
We have such a corruption of the media. So again, I would just say that anyway.
I'm sorry.
Stop shuffling me along here.
No, I'm sorry. I did not mean that to come across.
He did the water ski signal with his finger, wrap
it up.
We're water skiing right through the episode.
Well, I just want to say, I myself, with this debate on lying, I put down a marker on this. When this first came out, I am absolutely on the side of absolutely you lie to the Nazis at the door. And anyone who I just think you're absolute buffoon if you think otherwise. And CatholicVote came down strong on that. We put that article by Peter Kraft, and I'm very much against the Mark Shays of the world on that one. So
I want to see you do a debate with Father Gregory Pine on that one. It's the Dominican versus the beer guzzling Viking. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care, whatever. I mean, it's like common sense is so obvious in this one. Like, and there's numerous examples in the Bible where, deception was used against the evil. Now he's giving me the real call. Okay, wrap it up, Mercer.
All right. What else we got?
High profile conversion. So something that we kind of had go a little viral on Twitter. We get at the Arizona rally, we have a Carmelite priest giving a relic of the true cross and handing Trump a scapular. I'm not going to play the audio because it's terrible, but check it out. Relic of the true scapular.
Oh my gosh.
And then praying with Trump here. And I have to say, I haven't seen too much outrage about this, but I did see a funny comment. Someone's like, it's over if he gets, it's game over. If he starts with the scapular, it's game over. Facts. It's a really powerful sacramental. And I would actually love to see this kind of thing happening with politicians of all stripes because I think it's powerful and I think it matters. The fact that Trump was open to this is amazing. This Carmelite priest is like, this is kind of what I'm saying about evangelizing and trying to reach out and make a difference. This is really awesome. And it did resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And this was at the huge Arizona rally. And I hope that Kamala Harris would be open to this kind of thing as well. I mean, I just have a quick CCC on sacramentals, as Brown scapular is really powerful. Sacramentals do not confer the grace of the Holy Spirit in the way that sacraments do, but by the church's prayer, they prepare us to receive grace and dispose us to cooperate with it. For well-disposed members of the faithful, the liturgy of the sacraments and sacramentals sanctifies almost every event in their lives with the divine grace which flows from the paschal mystery of the passion, death, and resurrection of Christ. From this source, all sacraments and sacramentals draw their power. So if anyone in the chat has got their brown scapular on, shout out to you. I'm kind of in and out of it. I'm not as good as I should be. I'll wear it a lot sometimes and not after, but highly recommend. I am a big believer in the brown scapular. Sounds cool.
Used to be that after First Holy Communion, parishes would enroll all the children in the brown scapular right after First Holy Communion. Something they brought back at our parish when the Dominicans were here, which is really cool, really meaningful. Get them in there. And for some people I saw online were like, "Oh my gosh, he's not Catholic. You can't give him a scapular." Well, yeah, you can. Non-Catholics can, reverence sacramentals. They can use sacramentals. We hope that moves them to a place where they will be disposed to receive the grace of baptism, receive the sacrament of confession, and of course, join the church in that way fully. But yeah, non-Catholics can definitely benefit from a little holy water, a little exorcism. You know what I'm saying? Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we could use a little exorcism in our current politics. I saw that RFK Jr. had a little affair thing going too.
RFK, shocker! Kennedy has extramarital affair.
Not an affair
with a reporter. Shocking.
Yeah, dude, we could use a little bit more exorcism in our current.
Let's do it.
State, but so I wanted.
It's kind of funny too, because if you look at Olivia Newsy's feed, she's the reporter that he had the affair with. Just go back a few weeks and you see she's got this article. Ripping on the Rolling Stone against raw milk. And it's like, oh, huh.
Yeah. Stop it.
So,
oh my goodness.
I could go a few different directions here. I had a question specifically about Vatican II, which is a super popular topic, which I'm glad we have Erika here for. And then I also have Kamala Harris Oprah highlights.
Oh, I think
highlights.
Tempting. Let's go a little Oprah because I'm happy to talk about Oprah as well.
Let's do Oprah first, and
then V2.
I'm happy to report this is the most relatable Kamala Harris has ever been on her entire campaign. Here we go.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun. I did not know that. If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that. But my staff will deal with that later.
Yeah. I mean,
that's actually good. I mean, okay, so
I agree with that.
I agree with that. And by the way, there was another clip that she had about a week or two ago that conservatives shared on Twitter and Facebook, and just saying Kamala's such an idiot. And it was about inflation. And she's like, she spent 2 minutes not actually answering what she would do on inflation, but she spent the 2 minutes explaining how inflation hurts people and impacts their life and the cost of prices. And of course, conservatives are like, yeah, you're the one who raised those prices. Thank you very much. But the fact of the matter is, if an ignorant person is listening to that, they'll think, oh, she cares about me and my family.
Right.
So sometimes when you think is a dumb answer is not a dumb answer. You got to be careful. These people are crafty. They're not idiots.
Well, Josh,
even if they are idiots.
Do you want to see a dumb answer?
Let's see. Let's go to the next clip.
There was more to the interview, but I have to say kudos. Most relatable she's ever been to me. If someone walks into my house as an intruder, they're getting shot. I can very confidently say that right now. So I'm going to.
How good of a shot do you think she is?
We'll see.
Probably not good.
All right, here we go.
Better than Doug.
We love our country. I love our country. I know we all do. That's why everybody's here right now. We love our country. We take pride in the privilege of being American. And this is a moment where we can and must come together as Americans, understanding we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's come together with the character that we are so proud of about who we are, which is we are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being. Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are, which includes freedom to make decisions about your own body, freedom to be safe from gun violence, freedom to have access to the ballot box, freedom to be who you are and just be, to love who you love openly and with pride, freedom to just be.
Still going.
To just
be.
Just
and
be,
that's who we are. We believe in all that. And so this is a moment where we stand knowing what we are fighting for. We're not fighting against.
What?
It's what we're fighting for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oprah.
I know.
So, I mean, this is before Tommy was born, but it reminds me of Alicia Silverstone's character in Clueless who gets
Yes! Thank you. Yes.
Wait, what is that?
I have the clip. I don't know how to send you the link here.
Clueless. Oh my gosh.
I got to send it in the chat or something, huh?
Even Oprah looks bored. Yes, exactly. Whoever just typed that in the chat. I can't read. My glasses aren't on.
That was the takeaway was she lost Oprah. Because usually
she lost Oprah.
An interviewer like that, which Oprah's got to be the friendliest of all time. She didn't do any verbal acknowledgement or nods. Even she was kind of like,
I'll tell you.
I don't know when it stops.
Yeah.
Okay, I sent you the clip in the channel, but you know that Oprah is looking at her speak like this and thinking, gosh, Barack was like 10,000 times better.
Yeah. What have I sunk to? Oh my God. I know Oprah has interviewed a lot of dumb people, but a lot of really
almost leading up to a water. Is it the blood of patriots, water something? What is the quote on that? Do you have that? She basically
blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church.
No. You're thinking about Thomas Jefferson, like the revolution, the blood of patriots, right?
Oh, we'll water the tree of liberty.
Yes, right. Exactly. But obviously, she probably doesn't know that quote. And then, do you think that Revolutionary War soldiers were sitting there thinking about potentially getting hung for trying to fight for the freedom of America? And they're thinking, why I'm doing this? It's because I just want to be. Because I want the freedom to make my own decisions with my body. And I just want to be. And then they ran into a charge or they lined up and shot at each other in a volley.
Yeah, no, don't think so. Don't think that was it. It was so vapid.
That was bad.
But I was saying this, I was talking to some other Catholic Vote team this morning. And just like the thing that frightens me about this is I talk to people who I will not name, but they're very close to me. And they say things like, this is like poetry. She speaks like a revelation of poet. Like this is very high level discourse. And it is so high that we ordinary Americans can't understand the depths of these dreams and aspirations and the unburdened. But man, it sounds so profound. And I'm like, this is the problem when your electorate have never read a poem in their lives and have never been asked to have a deep thought in their lives. It's that you end up with people who hear that and they're like, wow, she's really profound. I mean, it's
the same kind of people who thought Jim Morrison was a poet. Like, come on.
Hey, whoa. Brown-eyed girl, Jim Morrison?
Like, Michael Jackson is high-level epic poetry. I mean
she sounded like the kid in 5th grade who didn't read the book and had to go out in front of class and tell him what happened. I mean, this is exactly what it is.
But if you haven't read the book,
total filibuster.
This is the point in the campaign where you need to have had read the book. Like we're in September.
Oh, man. 47 days.
Not able to. That's the softball. It's funny they cut out of this clip. I saw the question before it. The question before it was a softball, open-ended, make a closing statement, and that was their closing. And even people in the audience could not tell when to nod. And I honestly, I think she needs more moments like, yeah, if an intruder comes to my house, I'd shoot them. I was like, yes, agree. I was like, I don't know what I would say, but agree. And I also went and watched. She did an interview with the National Association of Black Journalists, which remember Trump did as well. And I don't know if this is possible, but I think Trump actually did better. And she did the interview and shook the hands after, dropped her head and walked out and looked pissed. I saw a behind the scenes of her walking off angry. And people are like, well, why do you think 98.5% of her staff has quit? She was mad at one of the girls on the panel because she asked follow-up questions. And she was like, well, it was on gun control. And particularly because she was asking a tough question, which is handguns kill 50% of the people in the country. Why aren't you going after handguns? And she was mad that that question was asked, of course, because that's a tough question to handle when you've previously ran on gun control and you want to kind of make it stop at assault weapons. But then if you have to go further than that, it's kind of a question that Trump gets asked every day, or J.D. Vance gets asked every day to defend tough positions. Mm-hmm. She was angry that that was the question that she got. So that was part of why at the end of the interview, they all kind of looked at each other like, oh my gosh, like, is it good?
She turned off. It was it was very unprofessional and very unpresidential. All of it.
It's also worth noting that, for Kamala, she gets the 3-week sugar high of the media thing after she becomes the nominee, like in the blue coup, right? And then she has her convention, and then she has a good debate performance. Whether you think Trump won or not, she had a good debate performance. I think she did better than him. But either way, those are 3 events that were very positive for her. And then obviously Oprah is a massive influencer who's promoting her right now. And all of this gets the best you can see on any polls is that she's up by 2 points tops.
It's still dead heat.
You look at Hillary, you look at Biden, and they were much further ahead at different points, And so, I just feel like it. And again, you start looking at the models of the polls, and they're like white, wealthy suburbanites are answering the people who call for the polls, and then the people that are white, blue collar, non-college educated aren't answering the pollsters' questions, and so you are getting a response bias again. So if you actually ask me right now, it's not Kamala +2 in the polls. It's probably Trump +3.
That's still too close for comfort, though. And I mean, Nate Silver, he was giving Trump. Had Trump at 61% chance of carrying the Electoral College, and now he's back down, way down, back down to 51.
MAGA right-wing pollster Nate Silver.
It's not way down, but it's basically he's saying it's even Steven right now with a slight edge to Kamala, 51-49. That's. Again,
it comes down way down from 61. I mean, that's 10 point. It was a 10-point drop this week on Nate Silver. All right. I mean, it's going to come down to turnout, right? It's coming down to voter turnout. Who's going to actually show up?
But this is what I'd like to say. Then I was going to keep this as what are you going to be a wrap up thing? I'll save it then. I'll save it for my Twilight Zone. Okay.
I actually studied up on this week.
I got more to get to. Save it for the Twilight Zone. We got mailbag today. I promised the people mailbag today. We're doing mailbag today.
Okay.
So first one, and this is from a few weeks ago, so priority. Thank you for sending it. And hopefully you have some contributions to add here. Here we go. Can y'all deep dive, and I don't know how deep it's going to get, but deep dive into the whole Vatican II debate. I'm 41 years old, raised by 2 products of Vatican II, and didn't even know there was a TLM until a few years ago. I attended my first baptism where the baby had an exorcism or whatever this year.
I like this person.
I had no clue about so many things up until a few years ago. I feel so robbed. I've watched all of the Massive Ages episodes. It's great, by the way. And I still have so many questions. I've listened to some of the Avoiding Babylon podcasts. They're pretty funny. Heads up there. That's a cool thing.
Never heard of them.
but they assume a level of foundational knowledge that I just don't have. I'd also like to get y'all's perspective because I feel like y'all are so balanced and measured. Taylor Marshall has some valid points, but can get lost in hysteria over every little thing. So you never know what is legit or dramatized. Kudos for you for recognizing this. You're going to get 3 probably very, like, we're pretty normal Catholics. Like, I'm not super deep in either circle. I'm Catholic. All 3 of us are Catholic. So with that being said, Erika, this is
boy.
here for this.
Deep dive on Vatican II. Knowing that Pogo is about to like give me the signal that I have to like
No, I'm not.
stop.
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. So Vatican II, where to begin? So obviously Vatican II, Council of the Church, follow up on Vatican I, 1962 to 1965. I had to go get those dates. So this council is called, dude, I just looked it up. It is literally 1962 to 1965.
Come on, Josh.
Mercer, stop judging me.
That face, those eyebrows.
Vatican II said you can't judge me, so stop.
Go
All
ahead.
right. No. So we have this council, and we get some great documents out of the council. Gaudium et Spes. Joseph Ratzinger's there. Karol Wojtyła's there, who becomes Pope John Paul II. Benedict XVI, obviously. And the big throwdown over Vatican II, to sum it up, I think, is over its implementation, the implementation of these documents. And the idea, when John the 23rd called it, is he wanted to help the church to finish the work or continue the work of Vatican I, which was how does the church deal with the modern world, with the questions of modernity. And so the questions of Vatican II, people think, oh, well, it was a response to the sexual revolution. It was a response to after World War II. No, it happened during all of this upheaval and this revolution, but it's really trying to finish the work of how does the church grapple with the fallout from the Protestant Reformation and the move through the Enlightenment into the modern world. What we get in Vatican II that's new and different, though, is the bishops, the cardinals of the church, they invite in advisors to the council. And I'm probably getting the wrong theological term, so shoot me, Matt Frad. But you got these advisors to the council who we have lay theologians coming in, and we have non-Catholic thinkers, theologians coming in. And you have this, at this point in the Vatican itself and in the bishops, you have what I would say is an influence of a very modernistic, Marxist bent. And so you have this sort of fight going on in the church over objectivity, over relativism. The fallout from the council, the implementation of the council was, it was a disaster, right? We have this disastrous fallout. The fruits were not great. People leaving the church in droves. The sexual revolution just came for the seminaries. Then we have the pontificate of Pope John Paul II, right? And then, of course, Benedict XVI, they're telling us, no, Vatican II's implementation was not done well. It should not have been a disruption of church doctrine. It should have been a continuity of the unchanging teachings of the church. And so we get with John Paul II this emphasis on doctrine, right, on truth. Then with Benedict, we get the continuity of the liturgy. There should not have been this massive, not just reform, but complete suppression in some places of the old rite. The council did not want to suppress or change what we now know as the TLM, as the traditional Latin Mass. They wanted to renew that Mass. But instead, we got these committees rewriting the rites of the church and so altering it that, my grandmother, who was, a mom in her 40s during the 1960s, she said she didn't even recognize it anymore, right? It wasn't explained to her. She just goes one day and there's no more altar rail, no more Latin, and the Mass is in different order, and she doesn't even know what's going on anymore. So the question is, of course, was the implementation the issue, or was the council itself rotten? I fall on the camp of this was a legit council of the church. I'm sorry, just like Trent, just like Nicaea, just like Hippo, just like Vatican I, just like any of the councils of the church, we need to accept it. And the teachings of the council. I think the wonderful thing that's been done in the last 60 years since the council is that lay theologians, with the help of great men like Ratzinger, like John Paul II, they have been able to point to the documents themselves and say, this is what was actually intended. We need to get back to that, to what the bishops actually said. I'm much more sanguine about it than someone like Eric Sammons over at Crisis Point. I think that there was a lot of good fruit coming out of there. I'm happy. I disagree. There are good men I disagree with on this. But yeah, that's basically like my, wow. Did I just go for 6 minutes? Hey guys, sorry about that.
No,
Woo!
I'm happy that you're able to give a very like personal and academic view of it, because I think when people bring up this question, first off, I think it's acceptable to have honest debate about it. I think a lot of people debate bad faith on it, which I don't think is good and I don't think really gets anywhere. But it is good because I would like people to go back and read the documents that came from Vatican II, because it's pretty eye-opening when you compare it to implementation. Because implementation is so different than what was in that document. That I think is what most people are questioning, because they discover something like the traditional Latin Mass. They're like, whoa, this is really beautiful. And there's something to it. Clearly there's something to it. Why was this just kind of chopped, wholesale chopped? And then you look at things that objectively are not very reverent, say, the green carpet churches that are doing the kumbayas or whatever. Like, how the heck? Like, this isn't even the same thing. And so when people are asking about implementation, I feel like, so it's nice to go back to the source and talk about that.
I think if I could just make a point about the implementation too, Eric Sammons, he wrote an article for Crisis a few years ago, and he said, well, the reason why I flipped on Vatican II and I got angry about it, and I'm putting words in your mouth, Eric, you're much more eloquent than this. I got angry about it because the people, when we say implementation, the bishops were responsible. The bishops who promulgated the documents were also responsible for implementation. And I actually disagree with that, because what happened in the 1960s and moving on, the bishops started to delegate. They started to delegate implementation. So you end up with these lay commissions on XYZ. At the USCCB, you end up with these committees on something that are not actually run by the bishops, but the bishops sort of give over their teaching authority or their actual implementation authority to different groups. And so they weren't actually, the men who wrote these documents, not all of them, some of them did, but not all of them actually retained the authority to implement it or in practice there. And also these documents come out at a time when the world is on fire. The Western world is on fire in the 60s, right? We have the heyday of the sexual revolution. We have, Humanae Vitae comes out in 1968. There's all kinds of darts being thrown at the church and within the church from churchmen who have been deceived. Anyway, I could go on and on. That's probably way more than you wanted. And Mercer has thoughts.
No thoughts. Just
no thoughts. Oh my gosh, this is like anti-Josh Day.
You have me muted.
Because you were typing.
Yeah, well, it stayed on for a while, but like in this discussion, though, I think everything I agree with what Erika is saying, but like I felt just really inspired when Cardinal Ratzinger gave a book-length interview in the Ratzinger Report. And there was this big controversy about it because he used the word restoration. This book came out like in 1984 when he was head of the CDF for defending the faith. And so it kind of blew up, and he's like, hold the phone. He said, if restoration is meant by a turning back, no restoration of such kind is possible. The church moves forward to the consummation of history. She looks ahead to the Lord who is coming. But if by restoration we understand the search for a new balance after all, like a restoration to restore a recovery of lost values within a new totality, I would like to say that is precisely the task that imposes itself today in the second phase of the post-conciliar period. It literally means the same word. Restoration means the same word as reform. And he hearkened it to Charles Borromeo, the Cardinal of Milan. He said, back in the Counter-Reformation, he said he was a classic expression of real reform. That is to say, a renewal that leads toward precisely teaching the faith and to live the permanent values in a new way. St. Charles of Borromeo truly restored the Catholic Church in the late 16th century Milan. It had been nearly destroyed.
Yes.
And so I think about how he looks at that, and then I think about him deciding to restore the Latin Mass and promulgate it and allow priests to celebrate it. And maybe it was the design of the Holy Spirit to kind of keep it under wraps for a while, because under the pontificate of John Paul, and let him focus on what the Vatican Council, the Second Vatican Council, was meant to be, and elucidate and illuminate those teachings. and then for Benedict to come along and then to allow more liberalization of the Latin Mass, and that makes sense. I think there's a logic here to that, why it had to be done that way. But at this time, when he finally allows for it in 2009, when Pope Benedict allows for the a more openness on the Latin Mass, his thought, his hope, his desire was that it would actually give a little bit more reverence to the masses that are celebrated in the vernacular in English in our country, for example. Right. That both the masses would have a way of kind of being positive influences on each other. Whereas if you had allowed it, like if John Paul had allowed it like in 1980, for example, it might not have had that effect, you know. And some lefties are saying, well, because of the internet culture, it's having a bad effect right now. And that's why Francis had to suppress it completely. And I think that's terrible. I disagree with that. So anyway, the fight continues. But like I think Pope Benedict's generosity towards the Latin Mass that was so slapped, and they didn't even wait for him to die to do it. I just thought that was another despicable act by Frank.
Yeah. Pray for Pope Francis. I mean, it's funny. I just saw a review recently. Someone gave us 4 stars, not 5. They were a convert from Calvinism, and they heard us speak critically of Pope Francis, and still really like the show and critical of Pope Francis. And I think that everyone on this show probably agrees. It's reasonable to critique Pope Francis when he's in true error. As Catholics, to be able to talk about it, like the conversations we have here, hopefully are no different than conversations that are happening around the dinner table or in the vestibule or whatever. Obviously, I believe there's a line where it goes into some type of true avarice or sin, but to speak, I don't feel like suppressing reasonable thoughts or concerns in good faith are wrong or evil. So, but
there's good ways to do it, and I think the Pope could do a better job of allowing it. So, for example, back in January, he was on a 1-hour interview on Italian television where he said, "Now, this is just my personal view. It's not that I'm not declaring dogma. It's just my personal view and hope that hell is empty." And look, the way he handled it, I thought actually was nice. Like that, there's nothing I think totally crazy about trying to say, "Hey, it'd be kind of my hope that somehow God, whatever." And it's like, that's fine. But then if you would have his discussions like that, it would be one thing. But then he goes out and he does stuff like this where he suppresses the Latin Mass. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you saying that conservatives who have a lot of babies are just acting like rabbits? Like, it's just
right. Fiducia hands. I mean, there's so many examples I could go into of like quite literally changing church dogma or coming pretty darn close to it. And that's where I think it's super reasonable to reach out and be like, okay, well, what's going on here? Like, we got to talk about it. So anyway, that's the thought on that. So Josh, I have one specifically for you. So we have a listener in the sky. Shout out Chuck. I'm a Delta Airlines pilot and regular listener to your show. I just landed in Phoenix, and I think Josh was on my flight. I was standing in first class saying goodbye, and I swear I recognized Josh's voice, and I thanked him. When I thanked him, I listened to the podcast 99% of the time. So, but based on his voice alone, almost said Josh after he passed. Sadly, he was around the corner. Before I remembered, he was from Minneapolis. I've been flying all day and saving the show for tomorrow. And just wanted to give a shout out and tell Josh I was his captain if that was him. Josh, was that you in Arizona?
No, I have not been in Arizona in the last year.
Sorry, Chuck.
I mean, I'd love to. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that's what I don't know. I guess I'm kind of honored in a sense that somebody would be thinking about me or whatever. That's nice, Chuck. I do fly Delta. Because I live in northern Michigan now, and I fly to Minneapolis to go see my family, or off to Bismarck to see my daughter now, and I prefer Delta, even though I jokingly used to call it "Don't ever leave the airport." No, that's just that one before. No, it's a good airline. I like it.
Delta is the best airline in my experience.
Yeah, I actually think so.
It's like air. So shout out Chuck, but Josh, there is a look-alike or a sound-alike running.
Sound-alike, little doppelganger.
Maybe he's going to start a rival podcast. I don't know.
Well, no, every time I go on a Delta flight now, I'd be like, "Hey, is Chuck there?" And they'll be like, "Oh, yeah." So, I mean, one of these days it's going to be him. So I'm looking for you, bro.
Shout out Chuck for real. All right, cool. We're going to have a couple quick hitters. We got to cover these quick before the Twilight Zone. So for Mindy, question: what age do you think is best to receive confirmation?
Oh, young as possible. I'm all for the restored order. Get those kids that grace.
Because that's an Eastern thing now, right? Eastern Rite.
Well, so they'll confirm babies right at baptism. So they do baptism, first communion, confirmation all in one go. In the Latin Rite, so we have some dioceses that have what they call restored order now. My parents' diocese up in New Hampshire, shout out to Bishop Labashi, we love you. They just moved it back to restored order 5 or 6 years ago, where kids receive confirmation in 3rd grade right before they receive first confession and communion. I think that is the way to go. Kids need so much grace right now in our culture, society. So why withhold it? And this idea that you have to wait until they're like adults because it's this right, it's this coming of age thing. That is not a Catholic idea.
Not adults. It was that they wait until they're like
conscious
teenagers,
15 or so.
A rite of passage, like adolescent thing. No, that's not church teaching. That's not in the.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm kind of down.
I will. Here's the thing. I will defer to the theologians and to the bishops on this or whatever. I mean, like I don't really have any strong, hard feelings. Like, oh, what the heck? But to me, it made sense that you would have obviously baptism as soon as you can, and then first communion as they're,
age of reason.
Age of reason. I think that's it. And then that confirmation when I was growing up was when you're about 15 or 16. It's like, okay, you know what? You need to. This is like your coming of age, and when people talk about it now, like it's just like you do, coming of age. What is this? Like that actually makes sense. Like we actually expect this faith to be something for you in your adulthood.
Yeah,
now,
but
if
why
you want to push it back? Fine, but I always thought that kind of made sense.
Why can't you have a coming of age, owning your faith moment outside of the sacrament of confirmation?
No, but it's a good one, and frankly, again, the church
isn't a sacrament that wouldn't give you more graces.
All
right, go ahead.
I mean, you're like down a bash. You ask a question and let me answer.
Ooh, low blow.
Basically fighting words, but okay, go ahead.
But the idea was that, like, the church in her wisdom understands people where they're at. And in today's day and age, we know that there's so many things that are busy and like church, baseball playing on Sunday mornings, and it's a struggle to keep people going to church on a regular basis. I know that when my mom and my dad are not exactly, like super strong Catholics or whatever, and when my brother, my sister, and I all were confirmed, that's pretty much when church attendance stopped. And that's sad. It's a sad commentary, but it's like, imagine if it would stop when we're in 2nd grade. I mean, it's like, again, that's not a great argument, but it's like, it would make sense to try to keep them as long as you can. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Like, I get the logic.
Logically a lot, but
you could have that moment outside of it being a sacrament. Like if we really believe confirmation does actually deepen all the graces and there's real spirit,
makes you a soldier of Christ.
Right. That real power that comes with it. Why not do it as early as possible? They do it in the cases of children in danger of dying too. Like if you have a child born and you think they're not going to make it, you actually do get confirmation. And it is a unified rite outside of right now the Roman rite. So to me, you could have that coming of age, own your faith talk, or even do a class or something like that without it ending in confirmation. Like if we believe it's a sacrament. But anyway, that's all.
Anyway, I mean, I don't.
Years.
I will defer to the church on this. I'm a loyal son. I don't.
Attaboy. Also, for the people that asked the questions, the chat had a lot of good recommendations for understanding Vatican II. One of them being Aquinas did a great episode on that. I can co-sign that. Big Pines guy. I think they're doing great work over there. They do these nice long form interviews, so go check that one out. And then Dr. Janet Smith did a great thing on Vatican II, is what someone else recommended.
Humanae Vitae. You're really good.
Humanae Vitae, specifically in the chat. All right, we're in the Twilight Zone now. Erika, you're up third.
Okay, I want to talk about the exploding pagers. I know we have agreed. Not to talk about the Middle East, but I cannot contain myself.
Well, it's not just pages anymore, by the way.
No, I know. Let me do my spiel, man. All right.
Go for it.
So those of you who were not paying attention this week, over in Lebanon and Syria, a little surprise. People are just walking around, grocery shopping, and all of a sudden, there was an explosion of these pagers. Now, who still uses pagers, you might ask? Well, Hezbollah. Hezbollah still uses pagers. And remember, this is the terrorist organization funded by Iran. It is in Syria, Lebanon. They have been absolutely pounding northern Israel with rockets ever since October 8th of last year. And as a result, over 100,000 people have been evacuated. So the Israeli they have not claimed responsibility for the exploding pagers, but
Sure.
right, we pretty much know it's the IDF, and specifically they're kind of like CIA version of the IDF. But this operation was amazing. It was like something out of James Bond or like Michael Bourne or Jason Bourne, not Michael Bourne, Jason Bourne. So what they did was they basically became a front group to sell these pagers because they had infiltrated the cell phones and the networks, and they were messing up the communications of Hezbollah. And so the Hezbollah leaders say, okay, guys, we're going to go low tech. We're going to get pagers. And Israeli forces are listening. They're like, oh, I have an idea. So they actually manufacture a bunch of cheap pagers, put little explosive devices in these pagers with trackers. And then they get them they have them manufactured in Hungary. They put a Taiwanese stamp on them. And Hezbollah just distributes 10,000 of them to all of their guys. So at an opportune moment, they hit go, and these pagers explode. Killed about eight terrorists, injured thousands of others. But wait, there's more. So the leaders of Hezbollah, who were not maimed or castrated after this initial explosion, they're like, okay, guys, we're going to go even lower tech. We're going to go walkie-talkies. So the next day, all the walkie-talkies explode. And I had a friend of mine say, well, isn't this just an act of terrorism? This is just awful. Oh my gosh, they went in there. If you think about it, no, it was not. If you have to respond to people sending rockets into your territory, this is a terrorist organization. This was the most targeted way to do it, right? They could have been trying to fire rockets back at Hezbollah. What does Hezbollah do? They hide in hospitals. They hide underneath schools. They hide in neighborhoods. So you know those rockets are going to hit multiple civilians. There's going to be mass casualties. What if you could just explode the devices that you know only the Hezbollah operatives are carrying around? I think that as far as warfare goes, this was actually more moral than the usual set. So that's my take. And you just got to admit, it was pretty amazing that they pulled this off.
Was it okay?
I got him mad now.
Hey, listen, at this point, Eric and I have certain disagreements on.
We do have some serious disagreements.
Okay, so do I admit it was intelligent warfare? Yes. I mean,
yes.
Tactically very smart. Do I like that people are celebrating this? No. I would go as far to say that. Because there's already been retaliations, as should be expected, and it's continuing to escalate war in the Middle East. And this is Israel explicitly going against the advice of the United States in this case, putting us in a precarious situation and elevating warfare more. And I have a phone in my pocket. I don't love the precedent of this type of warfare. And yes, you can say they're or whatever.
Okay, no. You have a phone in your pocket. It's not a paper that claims that you are not a Hezbollah agent.
You don't think
bought a
blow up phones?
pager. What?
You don't think people could blow up phones? I mean, this is equivalent of like a drone strike to me. So
no, you couldn't blow up your phone.
I'm an American. Yes, it's very targeted. Yes, it also did kill some civilians, by the way. This wasn't just
of course, which happens, but it was limited.
Right. I don't love that people are celebrating this. It's like rah rah, go Israel. I'm like, we're escalating a war that potentially could go nuclear to the point where it's going to take more lives. They're explicitly going against the advice of the United States here, and it's not getting any closer to a peaceful solution. So I'm like, I'm not here to celebrate it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, this could go on. This would go on for another hour with me and Pogo, which is why we don't do this, and I probably should not have stepped in it. However, they are not going against the law. They're not going against the advice of the United States. They're going against it's the advice of Kirby and Blinken, for heaven's sake, Pogo. No. These guys, no one should be taking their advice anyway, right? I can't believe you're defending Blinken.
Erika's being coming out fighting.
We mustn't escalate the war.
Yeah, I don't think we should. I think that there's legitimate genocide going on in the Middle East.
Again, I want you to tell me what Israel should do. When the Hezbollah rockets they have evacuated 100,000 people out of the northern part of Israel. They just fired a rocket. It killed 12 kids playing soccer at a soccer field. What is Israel going to do?
You're hearing, we're not talking about any of the stories of Israel bombings of Palestine.
We can talk about those too.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's an improvement.
Hey, do that in the next hour. Let's finish this one up.
I don't know. I'm holding a very unpopular line. I understand that. I'm going to get roasted on that. So whatever. I don't love seeing that.
All right. Next up on the Twilight Zone, Tom, what do you got?
Are you giving me this?
He's doing it.
Cutting you off, bro.
Water skiing signal.
So for me, I'm keeping it domestic. But Erika, no, I actually really appreciate that you talk about this. We have a lot of discussions, and I respect it. I think there's opportunity for debate, and
there is. Maybe we'll have a debate one of these days.
So yeah, so we're gonna share this tab, and I have a video of a reporter going into a mega boat parade.
Oh, I love this.
What's your most important issue?
The economy, getting the interest rates down, getting it where we can afford to live in America. Right now, it's too expensive.
Okay, now let me maybe ask like a slightly impolite question. But, you know, if you can afford a boat, you're not hurting so bad, right? Because a boat costs a lot of money and it's a lot of upkeep.
Listen, nobody gave me shit. I earned everything that I've got. I'm retired military, retired power plant, and I am successful and retired and with boats, jet skis, because I did it right. And everybody has that chance. Whether they choose or not, that's up to them.
I would never try to take anything away from you in that way. But what I'm asking is, groceries are probably a smaller part of your budget than, say, you know, someone who's like a little worse off. I think it's interesting that people who are a little bit more comfortable are still so concerned about the economy. Did you see what I'm saying?
Because I want my money to go further. I want inflation to go down. I want interest rates to go back down. I want all that. But that covers everybody in the economy. Not just me, not just the poor, not just the rich. It covers everybody.
Now, something I've heard from some people, tell me if this applies to you, is like they're worried their kids aren't able to afford a house or a car.
Well, I trained my kids and taught my kids properly. They have great educations, and they're both successful in their careers. Actually, they're doing better than me.
I absolutely want that guy to run for governor.
You know,
That's awesome.
I so admire this guy's composure and doing this all while double fisting at a boat parade, which is so awesome. I mean, this guy, I think I would have been, I don't even know how I would have responded. I might have been much angrier. I'm in a boat parade trying to chill, talking to a reporter, and she uses her best Kamala Harris impression to basically tell this guy, well, like, what's your most important?
Kind of rich, so groceries shouldn't hurt you that much.
She asked, what's your most important issue? He says the economy. She literally follows up with, well, that really shouldn't be your most important issue.
Right.
What? Like, you asked me the question and I'm telling you, like, this isn't much of an interview if you're going to interject and tell me what should or shouldn't.
Okay, you think that's your most important issue, but you're wrong. It's not your most important issue. I'll tell you what your most important issue is.
And the voice he uses and whatever, like, I've heard that voice before, and he stays super calm and nukes her. And if anything, shouldn't someone who the economy is most important to care the most about inflation? He's clearly done well. He's worked well within the system, and he's accomplished a lot. The economy is important to people who do well like that.
That reporter's got a future in HR.
I know. Yeah, that was like a very
exactly.
You shouldn't. And his answer actually is correct. And this is what people miss about the whole like wealth and inflation thing. Inflation is the most immoral tax that a government can impose on poor people in the country.
Yes.
It actually is a very Catholic answer to say, I care about the economy and inflation because I care about everyone in the country. Right. Everyone's money goes further if we care about inflation. We take care of that. So being irresponsible in that front, Republican, Democrat, whatever, it doesn't matter. And just the fact that I've succeeded doesn't mean you get to shame me into feeling bad for doing well, I guess. Or
actually, normally if you say, wait a minute, you sound like a person who's spent an entire lifetime, 30, 40 years working hard, saving money, and you're actually able to afford things. Sounds like you've got your things together. So rather than disparage this guy, like, what lessons can you tell other people?
Maybe we should learn from him.
Yeah.
No question. These are my favorite type of people, like the people that have worked their butt off, accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, are now taking care of their kids. Clearly, this guy's just got a getting after it attitude. Anyone that is against that attitude, I really despise. Like, I can't stand hanging out with people or talking to people that are entitled and would ever disparage that type of mindset. Every person.
And by the way, what she said, remember what she said, Tom? I would never try to take any of that away. Dude,
you just
give
did.
me a
break.
You
would.
If she were governor, she's taking all of it.
Taking the boats. She's taking all the boats.
All right, I'm done on that. I just thought that was a fun clip, and that guy killed it. Josh.
Okay, so my Twilight Zone, zoo goers in China are like, wait a minute, this isn't right. China took a bunch of dogs and painted them to look like pandas. Can you believe this? This is so ridiculous. I mean, if anything, it's so fake. Everything they do is fake. It's a dog. It's a dog.
Oh man.
Okay.
A dog.
It's Chow Chow's painted. Their ears are painted.
Not even close. These guys aren't even trying.
I mean, it's just like, oh, really? Is this CD I'm getting? Is this DVD of the movie that's out in theaters? Is this really real? I mean, these guys pull this stuff all the time.
This is the most bootleg panda I've ever seen.
It's amazing. Yeah, it was in. I think the article said like the zoogoers discovered the hoax when the panda started barking and panting.
Yeah, right. They thought it through.
This is unreal. I cannot.
Tinfoil Tom says your mockery is an affront to the trans panda community. Thanks, Tinfoil Tom.
Oh my God.
This canine identifies as a panda bear.
It's so funny, gosh. I heard this story and I didn't watch the video, and I'm like, oh yeah, I bet it's like, oh, that's bad. This is
really
the
bad.
worst try at trying to make something look like a panda I've ever seen.
It's terrible. All right, and now that was my thing, but I do want to just say, I didn't get a chance to get this in earlier. I do want to make a plug now that we're actually entering the season where certain states like Virginia, North Carolina, and others are engaged in early voting. I would implore Catholics to consider getting their ballot in now if they have the opportunity. Why? Ned Ryan talked about this. He's a guy with a group called the American Majority. He says, think about this for a second. If you actually are able to vote like the first few days, then that's public, and all the political candidates running for office and all the organizations like American Majority or Catholic Vote or whoever else, they're going to like, oh, that person already voted. I'm not going to waste my time with them. They're not going to try to bother you. You'll still see ads on TV. I get that, but they're going to go on to somebody else. So if you vote early, it's like it only costs like $2-3 to reach you, and then you're done. The rest of the time, the next 5-6 weeks, as we have for this election, it's very expensive. TV time is expensive. Digital advertising time is expensive. Texting, phone calls, all those volunteers. If they can take some names off that list because they've already voted and the voter rolls come out, every day we know who voted.
Yeah.
Really, it's actually another way to contribute to the cause because money and resources, valuable time will be saved. Vote early. Go to vote.gov, find your state, get away, absentee ballot, or if you can vote early in person, and do it. You're saving organizations and candidates that you already support. You're giving them a thank you. It's your way of giving back. Please do it.
100%. And don't forget to pray. We just started the St. Michael Novena today. If you're not signed up, go sign up. So vote and pray.
Vote
it's the new aura at Labora.
Vote fast and pray. It's all three.
There you go.
Man, this is a fun episode, fun Friday episode. Thank you,
you.
Especially the guys in the chat. Look, we can see them. This is awesome. We got supporters of the trans panda community. I mean, I guess we are too. But yeah, if you guys leave a like in this episode, it helps out a ton. Leave a like, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. We got some nice links in there. If you can vote, go do it right now. We put the link out there. Join our novena. If you want to leave us a review, and even if it's just 4 stars, we'll take it. I appreciate it. That is LOOPCast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts where you can do that. You can email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org. I've been a little bit behind. I apologize to people who have emailed. I will get to everyone. And, of course, the most important thing you can do, pray for us. Pray for the LOOPCast. Pray for people here at Catholic Vote. Pray for everyone in the audience. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Pray for us. And we'll see you guys on the next one.